Hi there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Practical Marketing Tips for Small Law Firms, where we interview industry experts about proven, used today attorney marketing strategies. I'm your host, Cara Pryor. I'm the president of James Publishing. I'm also the founder of our marketing amplifier system. And I spend most of my time really strategizing with lawyers on how to improve their marketing results. And today we have an extra special guest with us. This guy really knows his stuff. He's an SEO for Lawyers Pro and gets results. I'm excited to welcome Jason Hennessey. He's the founder and CEO of Hennessey Digital, a results-driven digital marketing agency specializing in search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising, social media management, and brand development. So Jason and his team, they help law firms generate more leads and become more profitable, right? So using the proven SEO strategies he's used for 2+ decades, he's earned more than $500 million in new cases for his clients. Not bad, right? So Jason is an absolute expert on all things digital marketing. We're thrilled to have him here. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for being here.
Cara, thank you. I appreciate the warm welcome and I'm honored to be on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So we're going to dive right in, get to the meat like we always do. So today we're talking about law firm SEO, specifically exposing the Google algorithm to help you get more cases. So Jason, you're clearly the person to talk to about this, as you literally wrote the book on the topic. Tell us a little bit about why you recently wrote this book and kind of what was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, thanks. So I think I've spent basically most of my adult life, like 2 decades. I'm 43 now. You stop keeping track after so long. And so for the past 20 plus years, like this has been kind of like everything that I know. And so I've been working with law firms for so long, and we've gotten to kind of see behind the scenes what works, what doesn't work. But SEO is one of those subjects that it's a little nebulous and it's confusing, especially if you are a law firm owner, right? And we all know that they don't teach this kind of stuff in law school. And so my goal for writing the book was to really break it down so that lawyers can read it, where we can help educate and empower them to either help them do it on their own if they choose to do that, if they want to build like their own team to start to do things themselves, or to make the right decision with hiring, like maybe an agency, because there's so many stories where people, the expectations aren't necessarily aligned when you hire an agency, and you go through agencies every 6 to 12 months. And so that was kind of the reason why, is really to give back and educate and inform lawyers.
I love that, Jason. And certainly many of the attorneys that I speak with are frankly overwhelmed. They're confused by SEO. So can you simplify it, kind of boil it down for us to what really matters? What do attorneys kind of need to know on the baseline?
Yeah. So like I said, it could be a little intimidating. If you went to go to a bookstore and buy a book about SEO, they're going to point you to like the computer engineering section, right? Where there's guys that are like trying to get jobs for Google and stuff. It doesn't really need to be that complex. SEO is really pretty simple when you boil it down. There's 3 components of SEO. There is the integrity of the website. So that's all of the stuff that you will need somebody to like a webmaster or somebody that kind of understands how to do that. But the beauty with the book that I wrote is I give you all the tools that you can use to make sure that, like page speed, for example, right? That's something that's very important to Google, because if somebody's doing a Google search for a personal injury lawyer in Dallas and your website takes 9 seconds to load, well, it's creating a bad user experience for somebody that's doing that for Google, right? So Google has a page speed tool that you can just put your URL in and you push a button and it tells you whether or not you're failing or you're passing, right? So you don't need to know how to make your website faster. You just need to know how to push the button, right? And so that's what this book does. It gives you all the shortcuts to make sure that you can hold the people accountable to getting the results that you need. So technical SEO includes page speed, broken links, making sure that your server's loading correctly, making sure that your site doesn't inject any malware or anything like that. So that's the integrity of the website. The second component is the relevancy. So when somebody's doing a search, you want to make sure that you have pages that actually satisfy the intent of what people are searching for. A lot of times I say people make critical mistakes where they just hire a writer and they're not really paying attention, and the writer's just kind of going and writing a bunch of content. And you see this all the time where, like, for example, if it's like a dog bite page, right? And it's like somebody's kid just got bit by a dog and they're looking for a lawyer. And when they get to your page, the first thing that they see is, did you know the statistics of dog bites? And like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Like, you're missing the boat. You want to make sure.
Helpful, right? The
Oh,
content
yeah.
needs to be helpful.
Yeah. They're not doing research about dog bites, right?
Right.
So you kind of have to have some sympathy and some empathy. And I see a lot of people, and the same thing goes, like, they just grab like a Shutterstock image of like a dog about to attack, right? You know what I mean? Like what is that doing for the person that is like looking for a lawyer? You're basically recreating this thing that they just traumatic experience, right? So stuff like that. So again, that's the relevancy. And the third piece is getting your website popular. And so how do you get your website popular? Is by doing things that businesses do, right? Become a member of the Better Business Bureau, advertise on, some of the legal directories, get a press release when something happens at your firm, just doing things that are kind of natural. There's a lot of ways that you can kind of manipulate links, and that's a strategy too. But Google's on to some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe you can touch just briefly, Jason, on kind of the difference between sort of organic SEO and local optimization. I think sometimes there's some confusion there. What matters, what doesn't, what can be done, kind of in those areas. Maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah. So they kind of go together. Like, local SEO is a part of your SEO strategy. There's just different variables that the algorithm is looking at from a local perspective. And there is a chapter in the book, Law Firm SEO, that I got, which you get on Amazon, that talks a lot about the local strategies too. So some of the key components with local is everything that I talked about, like with page speed, making sure the site loads, making sure that the relevancy is all correct. There's other things that you can do too. Like, for example, there's something called schema markup that you can add to a site to kind of give Google what they need in terms of relevancy. But what's really important with local is paying attention to your reviews, like making sure that you're getting people to leave reviews. But also responding to every single review that you get. That's a lot of people fail there, right? Where you get 100 reviews, but you're not responding to that. Also some of the citations that show that you're a true business. So we talked about the Better Business Bureau. That's a great citation. Also adding photos and videos to they call it your Google My Business listing. So realistically, you need to claim your business from local, which is on your Google My Business listing, and then just make sure that you're actually maximizing every single tool and feature that they give you in that dashboard.
Yeah, so just to be clear for our viewers, so when you say citations, you're talking about these directory listings on multiple sites, right? Making sure that those are consistent and accurate and
that's right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you got like 16 phone numbers that are out there that, it's like, this is a phone number from when you were in business 3 years ago and you've changed it. They're looking for, they call it NAP consistency, your name, address, and your phone number, making sure that that's consistent.
Good. So you touched on this at the top of the conversation, but when law firms they're kind of looking to hire an agency, right? There are so many out there. And I can say, personally, I hear horror stories all the time on, sort of agency hopping and now not really finding that good fit and really kind of just being unsure on how to measure and sort of, track the effectiveness and really the value of their agency. So if a law firm owner and attorney is looking to hire an agency now, what should they be looking for? What should they be watching, when deciding kind of who to hire?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to look at some of the case studies, right? It's like, for instance, like with us, we mostly work with law firms, right? So what we've done in, one market like Miami, with a law firm there, we replicate our strategies in other markets, right? And we've got some amazing case studies. So I think, make sure you pay attention to the case studies. The second piece is understanding like who's actually going to be doing the work, right? Because, a lot of times you get on a call with like a salesperson and they're just like super strong, right? And they tell you everything that you want to hear. But then you start working with somebody that might not have the whole experience that you were looking for. And then as a lawyer, you want to make sure that that the agency that you're working with has some experience working with law firms, right? Because they need to know the vernacular and they need to understand, how lawyers speak and what, basically their language. That's super important. So for us, like we get really deep into working with our clients and we help them solve other problems, not just the SEO problems. So like, for example, like we've got lawyers that we work with and the main goal, is to drive more leads. That's really our main goal, is to drive more leads. What happens after the lead comes in sometimes is outside of our control, right? And so like, for example, we've got a client right now where we're actually helping to measure the response time that they're getting back to the leads. And so we've got a client that's on average taking about 4 days to get back to a client, right? And so if you're not responding to these leads within like an hour or two, like there's a good chance that you're probably not going to sign the case. But when you're waiting 3-4 days, that goes way down, right? So like that's some of the other problems that we help our clients solve, is more of like the intake and the conversion, and not so much just what we're responsible for with driving like the traffic and the leads.
Yeah, that's really interesting. As a little experiment we did recently for a webinar we were hosting, we went on 50 or so attorney websites and filled out an inquiry form and stating very clearly that we needed legal help as soon as possible. One law firm got in touch with us.
Yeah.
And this was kind of a random, cross section of law firms, but it's astonishing. I mean, that can be that lowest hanging fruit, right? Is okay, you're getting all these leads, great, but what are you doing to convert those leads? How quickly are you following up with those leads? And not just ignoring, anyone that doesn't retain you as soon as they, inquire, right? I mean, really putting a process around that. And like you said, the swift response. I mean, there's research, I think, it says within 15 minutes or something like that, right? Ideally, you're calling that lead or that prospective client to help out. So I think there's a lot of opportunity.
We did the same thing. We did it on a much larger scale. We contacted 750 law firms. There's a study on our website on Hennessey.com on the main thing. So we reached out to 750 law firms. 60% of the law firms didn't get back to us at all, right? So 60% out of the 750, and there was 150 firms that I think. Was it that many? I think there's like 150 firms that got back to us within 10 minutes. And so we actually sent them awards because,
that's cool.
So they got physical awards in the mail. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, it is amazing how so much of the focus is on that lead volume, which of course is important, in qualifying those leads, but, sometimes that opportunity is kind of right in front of you. Going along with what, all your great advice about kind of, how to evaluate and hire an agency, but what about kind of like on an ongoing basis, right? So how can a law firm basically determine whether their agency is doing good work for them? What should they be watching and measuring sort of on an ongoing basis?
Yeah. There's a lot of barometers that, you should be looking at, because an SEO company will dazzle you, or a digital marketing company can dazzle you. They can make any story look good, right? Like your bounce rate is lower this month and, you're ranking for this keyword now. You moved up 3 positions, right? Those are all good metrics to kind of see how well a campaign is going. But at the end of the day, like really what you should be looking at is, the number of leads that you're getting, right? And so how much are you spending every month? How many leads are you getting, right? So what's the average cost per lead? And then hopefully you're doing a good job on your side where you can actually tell which cases are coming in from which channels. And then you're able to tell what is the average cost per signed case, right? That's the true metric. Everything else from traffic to keywords to links to content, you know, all of that is just a means to the end. And the end is just how much am I paying per signed case?
Right. Yeah. Well, so what do you recommend the best way to kind of track that? So a law firm is really just starting out, starting down, trying to, make sure that they're tracking their marketing sources, all the way through the life cycle to when, they're retaining. What's the best way to do that? Software, spreadsheet, what do you recommend?
Yeah, spreadsheets are fine if you don't have some kind of like a case management software, but there's a lot of great case management softwares as well. We've even went so far to kind of build our own proprietary platform. So our clients can actually see like the true ROI on a monthly basis. And is the lead price going down? Is it going up? And you can actually measure it for each of the different channels. So we've built our own proprietary system only because, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous for us to do that because, we could get fired if the data doesn't read correctly, if we're just not succeeding, right? And there are certain months where it goes up, it goes the wrong way, right? But we need to be transparent because it's important, you have to have ethics in this industry. But it's, and then same thing with pay-per-click too. If you're spending $20,000 a month on pay-per-click, well, how much are you paying per lead? How much are you paying per signed case? From there, it's just, budget is irrelevant, really. It's just a matter of how much you can handle. Like, how big is your firm and how big is your intake? And we've got certain clients where they're just like, there's no constraints in budget. If you can keep the average cost per signed case under $2,000, I'll take as money as you can get us, right? So it just kind of depends.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk briefly about what are some of the biggest mistakes you see when law firms are trying to kind of invest in SEO and really trying to drive more traffic, more appointments, more clients.
Yeah. Like we're talking about not really being organized and understanding, like measuring it. I think that's one of the most critical mistakes. A lot of people just invest more money into the marketing, right? And that's kind of like your go-to. You signed a big case, you got a couple $1 million, and you just want to go aggressive with marketing, but you're not able to truly understand like which channels are working, and then starting to reinvest in those channels. So I think, having somebody that kind of understands data, like a data scientist or somebody that's either on a retainer or on staff, like I think that's important if you're going to be spending a lot of money, or having an agency that's reporting that stuff for you. And then the second piece is, is basically the response time and the intake, making sure that, the calls aren't going to a voicemail at 6 o'clock at night, right? And on Sunday morning, nobody's answering, it's just ringing. So, you spend a lot of money and you want to make sure that you're capturing as many of those leads as you can get. But from the SEO side, I think some of the critical mistakes that I see is not having a content strategy. You just know that you need to publish content and you just hire a writer to blog 4 times a week. And that's kind of your SEO strategy. And the other thing is basically just thinking that SEO is just like a one-time thing. Like, oh yeah, we did SEO. We built a website and the designer did the SEO and you can just check that box. It's not how it works. Like SEO is kind of like, it's like your health, like really, like, if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, you don't go to the gym one day and you're like, okay, I'm healthy now, right? You got to continue to go to the gym. You got to eat healthy. You got to maintain, you got to weigh yourself, it's the same with your marketing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great advice. I love it. So Jason, before we wrap up, just tell everyone a little bit more about what it's like being a Hennessey digital client and kind of how folks can learn a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks. So Hennessey Digital, I personally have been doing SEO since 2001. I built one agency, I sold it. I started Hennessey Digital in about 2015. We work for a lot of big firms throughout the country. We're a large agency. We're about 130 full-time people now. We cover everything from design, development, content creation, content strategy, conversion rate optimization. We do it all. When you work with us, you're going to have a lot of transparency, sometimes almost too much transparency. And we work typically on a month-to-month agreement. We feel that if it's not working, we deserve to be fired, then fire us. That's kind of how we do, rather than hold you into a long-term contract that's uncomfortable for all. So how you can find us is Hennessey.com, Hennessey. If you forget the E, you'll be buying some cognac. And yeah, we'd love it. And the bigger thing is, if you want to do this on your own or learn a little bit more about it, I took the COVID year to write a book. It's a bucket list thing. It's called Law Firm SEO. It's got a lot of good illustrations here. It breaks it down to just very easy bite-sized nuggets. And I think you'll get a lot of value, and it's on Amazon.
Excellent. Thank you. I really think your focus on transparency and offering, month-to-month agreements, that says so much about how you guys do business. I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks again for sharing your wisdom with us. You were wonderful, Jason. We really appreciate it. And everyone, be sure to join us for our next episode of Practical Marketing Tips for Small Law Firms, happening very soon. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.